Okay, so today I'm going to be doing a review of the new film by Roman Polanski called The Ghost, or The Ghost Writer. It depends on where you see it. I think in the UK it's called The Ghost, but if you go anywhere else it's called The Ghost Writer. Now, with regards to Roman Polanski, I understand everyone will have a different opinion of him in terms of him as a person, because of obviously what he did back in the 70s. But as a filmmaker, I think there are very few people that are in question over his capabilities. I mean, he's made some of the best and some of the most influential films ever made, such as Rosemary's Baby, Chinatown, the Pianist. I mean, these are all very good films, and they're the sign of someone with real talent. So even though I personally think because of what he did he should be in jail, I don't think it can be doubted that he obviously does have quite a lot of artistic skill. His films are very enriching to watch, and I certainly wasn't going to refuse the opportunity to watch this. Okay, so yeah, I did have quite a distinct interest to see this film, and I won't lie, I did think it was very good. I mean, this plot of the film is you've got the main character Ewan McGregor, and he's a writer or a journalist, and he's commissioned to write the biography or the memoirs, sorry, of a former British Prime Minister, a fictitious British Prime Minister, played by Bronsnan, and he slowly gets caught up in this sort of mystery plot that just becomes more complex and more suspenseful throughout the course of the film, and it makes for quite a satisfying resolution. The plot overall, it was very well structured, and one thing that got me was the fact that there was not a single wasted scene. Like every single thing that you saw seemed pertinent to the overall resolution of the story, in my view. If you took anything out or if you'd added anything in, it just simply wouldn't have been as good, which is something you can't really say about a lot of films, so that was something that impressed me. The plot of the film overall, and just a general feel of it, was that Polanski was really trying to emulate Alfred Hitchcock. Like, this film had a real Alfred Hitchcock type feel to it, just in terms of the plot and the tone. Really, I mean, it uses the same sort of suspense as a Hitchcock film. The narrative structure I thought was also quite similar, just in the way it all unfolds. And of course, Hitchcock films used to always have the trademark sort of subtle humour, subtle sarcasm, even throughout the plots of his films. And there's a few instances here where you get that kind of thing, where you get the odd subtle joke, subtle irony or sarcasm, and I think I won't waste any for you, because I think the genius in them is hearing them for the first time. But having that Hitchcock motif, I suppose you could call it, in this film, I thought it was really clever, really quite pleasant to see, given that Hitchcock obviously doesn't make films anymore, and that you get very few directors nowadays that will make a film like Hitchcock. So yeah, the fact that this film did feel like a Hitchcock film was something that I gave it credit for, and I personally enjoyed it. Of course, you get the feeling of sort of paranoia throughout it, in that it is defining it clearly as like a thriller. I mean, there are some scenes in this film where you don't even really know what the threat is. Like, there are certain chase scenes in the film. There are scenes with tension, and you're on the edge of your seat. But then you're also thinking, what, we don't know what this is. We don't know what's chasing him or who's chasing him. As in Ewan McGregor's character, and it makes for quite fascinating watching, and it also feels as though this is a sign of real craft, real cleverness, really, in that you're feeling tension, you're feeling suspense from something that that's not been clearly defined. which is very good. When it comes to the plot of the film, my first thought was that it felt a lot like The Wicker Man, like the original 70s version of The Wicker Man, just in the way the plot unfolds. I mean, both films have a character who is truly on their own. Like, you see the film through their eyes. They're the only character whose head you really get into. They're at a loss to understand what's going on around them. There's obviously something big and sinister and chaotic really going on around them. They don't fully understand it, and they're distressed at not being able to understand it, and it makes for interesting viewing. And also the idea that they're being chased by an unseen enemy. So yeah, I mean, the tone of the film, I thought, was very reminiscent of The Wicker Man. And if you've seen the film to the very end, if you've seen the conclusion of it, I'm probably giving it away, but if you've seen the conclusion of it, you'll know that similarity with The Wicker Man is carried all the way to the end. And because of me detecting that during the film, I did kind of predict what the ending was going to be. And I mean, I'm not wasting it for you, but definitely you'll probably still be surprised. But let's just say it's not entirely unpredictable. Speaking of Wicker Man, there was something I read somewhere that said that Nicolas Cage was originally up for the role that Ewan McGregor got in this film, which would have been an absolute disaster. Just imagining him in this role is humorous. The performances in general in this film, I thought were excellent. Ewan McGregor got the sort of paranoid, distressed, sort of the feeling that he is alone and there's nobody on his side. He got that down to a T. The rest of the performances, Pierce Bronsnan, I didn't think he was very good. There were a few scenes where he was, but I didn't think he wasn't really in the film enough to have any real lasting effect. Other than that, Kim Cattrall, I think one thing that everyone's saying is that her accent is really, like, she puts on a British accent and it really does not work at all. It kind of slips in places, and yeah, I did notice that. Eli Wallach's in this film, which was really quite nice to see. He was the bad in The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, and considering that he must be in his 90s at least, I thought it was quite refreshing to see, an actor like that in a film, even if it was just a very small role. The tone of the film, I mean, from what I've read, this film it's set in like New England in the northeast American states, but it's shot in Germany, because of course, Roman Polanski is banned from entering the United States. But no, I think shooting it in Germany actually worked to their advantage, because the atmosphere of Germany was from what I can tell, it's a lot like New England in America, except that it's a more amplified version of it. Like it feels a lot more almost sinister, atmospheric, and it really works to the film's advantage in that it feels like it's New England, except all the sinister aspects of it are more amplified. It is more creepy, and there's a more unsettling mood created, a more haunting mood even. That would be a good way to put it. The soundtrack to the film was excellent. It was one of those soundtracks that after you've seen it, you immediately have to find it on YouTube to hear it again. It was really excellent. It really set the mood. One or two inappropriate uses, I would say, but they're few and far between. I think overall the soundtrack and the use of the soundtrack was good. The film wasn't all good, I should say. There were a couple of things I didn't particularly like. One of those things was what they were trying to do with the Pierce Bronsnan character. Like, I mean, obviously the allegory is that he's supposed to be, that his character's analogous to Tony Blair. Like, I mean, they make him out to be a prime minister that resigned in disgrace, that was involved in an unpopular and allegedly illegal war. They make out that he's called before some tribunal, like there was backstabbing in his cabinet and what have you, and there reaches a point where you think they may as well have just called him Tony Blair. But I mean, I think the only problem I have with that really is that they don't really comment on it. Like, they present this character obviously supposed to be an allegory for Tony Blair, but they don't really comment on it. They don't really provide an opinion or a commentary on it. It is just a plot device, and it's fairly useless, I think, as a plot device. I mean, they may as well have just, if they were going to make it a political thriller where a prime minister was involved in a war, they shouldn't have made it so allegorical, to the extent where this guy literally is Tony Blair in terms of what happens to him or has happened to him. So yeah, it did feel like a bit of a pointless allegory, considering that they didn't really comment on it, and especially that it wasn't the focal point of the film. The ending, I thought, was just one of the ways that it unfolds. I thought was a bit gimmicky, like it was a bit cliched. I mean, you've seen this in like episodes of Columbo and what have you. I mean, I'm not going to give it away, but I just didn't think it was very. It wasn't as realistic or as serious, really, as the tone of the rest of the film. Overall, I thought the film was very good. I enjoyed it very much. I particularly enjoyed like the atmosphere, the tone of the film. It very much had the feel of like an Alfred Hitchcock film. I enjoyed the tension. I thought the plot was very well structured. They made very good decisions about what to put in the film and what to leave out. The acting was really good. A couple of weaknesses here and there, but nothing unforgivable, I would say. It's not Polanski's best film, I wouldn't say. I mean, this isn't Chinatown. This isn't even The Pianist. But for what it is, a thriller, a political thriller, even, with some good uses of tensions, a good throwback to the days of Alfred Hitchcock. I thought it was good. As such, I'm going to give it 7 out of 10, which it falls just short below excellent, but I think that still leaves it as being very good, and I very much recommend it. So yeah, The Ghostwriter, or The Ghost, 7 out of 10, very good. I really recommend it. But obviously, some people do have inbuilt prejudices towards Roman Polanski's films, and in all honesty, I can't blame you. But if you can put it aside to watch this film, you'll be rewarded.